And it is Carolina Contractor Show. We got another episode for you, and we're so glad that you have joined us. Hey, my name's Eric Smith. I do inside sales for Home Builder Supply in Wilson, Greenville. And the grand host of the show, we're going to call him Donnie Blanchard. He owns SureTop Roofing, also Blanchard Building Company. He's going to be a future TV star, though he doesn't believe that yet. I do. As a matter of fact, he came to the show today in a limousine, and I thought that was kind of cool. How are you doing, Donnie?
Man, if I were any better, I'd be brand new. So I'm feeling a lot better. And of course, the holidays, my whole family got something that went around the house and it put us all down for a while, but we're all back at it and back to 100%.
Same here. I got it about 2 weeks before you. So you still got a few more days, maybe a full week left of that congestion cough. And once that clears out, you'll be back to 100%. All right, the show. What is it about? It is not about colds and coughs and congestion. It's about your house. Donnie and I like to talk about houses and DIY projects, the inside, the outside. Too much to explain succinctly. So go to the website, thecarolinacontractor.com. Click on the link if you have a question for Donnie that says Ask the Contractor, and that will let you send a question to him directly, and we like to answer those on the show. We've also got links to YouTube sites. We got links to our social media. Thank you so much for everybody that follows us on Instagram and things like that. We love communicating back and forth with you. And then I kind of mentioned Donnie's going to be a TV star in a way, and you've got kind of an update, don't you?
Actually, this week, I was excited to hear that Hulu announced the debut of the show will be on February the 7th. So a lot of pressure there. They're going to drop all 10 episodes at once. And originally, A&E produced the show, and it was set to air January, February, but they only did one episode per week for 10 weeks. So in this case, you get it all, and you get it all at one time. So I'm really excited. We have no idea what it's going to be like. We don't know what the show cover is going to look like. We don't know what the intro is going to be. So it's kind of funny because you don't experience this kind of suspense as an adult often. So I'm really looking forward to it. And it was a lot of work. We finished in August. I want to say the end of August, we wrapped on all the production and finishing 10 houses that we flipped. And man, we really made some magic. So I feel good about it. And I think it's going to be a hit.
The show is called 50/50 Flip. A&E Network is the parent company of all this, and you started on season 2, which is the one that's coming out. Again, Donnie talked about that it debuts February 7th on Hulu. And as you also pointed out, you don't have to wait for the series week after week. They're just going to dump all 10 episodes at once so you can see Donnie on that. The reason we promote it is not only because Donnie's going to be on it, but they came into the radio station and did the show with us also. And it was very cool. We had a lot of fun with that. How much of that will actually make it? It took like 8 hours, 10 hours of time.
Yeah.
We might be in it 30 seconds. We might be in it 20 minutes. We don't know. We'll all find out together.
Hopefully it's a little bit more than that, but it was really cool that they basically highlighted my business, both businesses that is, and they highlighted my my radio show. And I would say that this is something that, we don't make money to do this, but we put a lot of work into it. And they highlighted my hobby. They let me cook on TV. So, it really did a lot, and it took a lot to get it done, but it was a great experience.
Man, and we've always talked about your grilling technique and your proficiency at that, so that'll be fun to see. Again, 50/50 Flip. You'll see the Carolina Contractor Show and some part on that. See it a lot on Donnie, and then see him in the studio when they join us. And again, that debuts on Hulu February 7th. All right, we had some storms last week. They got kind of rough. I didn't lose power. Did you lose any power from any of the storms we've had recently, Donnie?
No, sir, we didn't, but we've endured several ice storms in my area. So basically the power lines that feed my house are all brand new, knock on wood. But we really don't lose power very often unless it's something to do with an automobile accident.
Well, one thing I thought about was Wake County and Orange County stuff. A lot of people, tens of thousands of people lost power. Can you imagine as the electric grid expands and we put more electric vehicles and recharging stations out there? I had two thoughts. One, what if power was out 24 hours? That's going to have a major impact on the ability for electric vehicles to move. Imagine if it's 2 or 3 days. It will literally paralyze everyone who has an electric vehicle, because not only not being able to recharge them, but cold weather, those charges don't last as long. So we learned maybe from or maybe we didn't learn from Texas a few years ago when they had a massive ice storm and the state basically shut down because they couldn't get things working and their grid wasn't at capacity.
Yeah, they had to use everything powered by fossil fuel to dethaw all the windmills and so forth. So fossil fuels to the rescue again. And we did a cool show when that happened. I remember that. And, I think the big takeaway from that show is you don't want to be dependent on a single energy source. And, even if we go half electric, you're still going to need that pickup truck that operates on gas, to as a backup or something like that. I just can't see it being a reality that we go all electric.
Right. And I think it's very practical to have alternatives. Don't put all your energy eggs into one basket. When it comes to storms, a lot of damage occurs. It's kind of a given that you're going to have some sort of damage when you have high winds, especially come through and pull up shingles or knock over things. But the big thing is when do you contact your insurance company? What qualifies as even a worthy insurance claim? And we get a lot of questions through our website about insurance claims and after a storm has gone through. So today on the Carolina Contractor Show, we're going to focus on when to call insurance companies. And thankfully, our host and general contractor, Donnie Blanchard, also has a past life because you were part of the insurance world, weren't you?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll give you a quick story about that. Is in my 20s, I got my contractor license, and nobody wants to hire a baby-faced contractor. So, I'd get a job here, get a job there. But my uncle, he encouraged me to get my insurance adjuster license, and he was an independent adjuster. So he was a free agent. He could work for anybody that he wanted to. And when a storm hits, these insurance companies don't have enough adjusters in-house to cover the amount of claims that they get in. So they farm out these 1099 guys who are independent adjusters. And, the company we worked for would get a percentage of that money, and they would send me to an area. It was very common, Florida, Louisiana, but it was pretty cool because I got to see the country this way. Little did I know I was going to start a roofing company one day, and I'm meeting 5 to 8 roofers every single day. And subconsciously, I'm taking a page out of this guy's book and that guy's book. And I met some crooks, but I also met some very stand-up people, and I took a lot from those guys. I could tell as an adjuster, you're on the other side of this thing, so you want to deal with honest people, and that makes your life easier. But there are public adjusters out there who would come up against us, and I'd say they were the most dishonest because they're really trying to take the insurance company to the cleaners. And as an adjuster, you're just trying to find a happy medium, but that was only during hurricane season. So maybe from August to October, we would be busy. And of course, I would have construction projects in the off season. And I was building a doctor's office one year, and it took forever to pick out a brick. So the project came to a standstill, and I had a family to feed. So I basically rounded up a couple roofing jobs, and my guys were wonderful with the shingles. They did a great job. And I thought, maybe I should start a roofing company. And kind of funny, I had laid out a business plan for a family member, and he was also an adjuster at the time, but not a general contractor in the off season. So when I laid the business plan out, he never ran with it. So I had this whole business plan in place. I did a couple of roofs, saw that we really had a knack for doing this. And by the way, I still have that same crew all these years later. I had this business plan, and I just knew what to do. So when we hit the ground running. And when I say that, we went from, startup company to one of the major players in my area. We expanded into the Cary area with the office there. We still have that. And, roofing has just really been good to me, and I like it. We do it the right way. And, we're basically anti-storm chaser, and we'll get into that later in the show. But that's how SureTop was born. I've seen both sides of this, from insurance to roofing. So I think we're a good fit for a lot of the insurance companies because we keep everything on the up and up. And it has really served me well to know both sides of it. And if somebody doesn't have a legitimate claim, a lot of these agents will send me out to talk to them. And it's not always a great conversation, but I shoot them straight because, you don't want to have a claim on your record that's not legit.
The first big question we always get after a storm is, what do you do when you know a major storm is coming through? Like we have usually a few days, if not sometimes during hurricane season, a week notice. What do we do to prepare for the chance that we might have to make an insurance claim?
Yeah, I'm glad you led with that because the prep is everything, and just knowing what to do. So if you do have damage, you're not in a bad spot and scrambling. The first thing I tell people is if you know something's coming and it's going to be a wind event or a hail event, take pictures of all 4 elevations of your house. So front, left, right, and the back of your house, because you don't really pay attention to your house. You pull up in the driveway, you walk in through the garage or the front door, and you don't really pay attention to the siding, gutters, and a lot of the things that would be predisposed to damage during a storm. The next thing I tell people is secure anything that can be damaged. So if you've got the garbage cans outside, it's not going to hurt to pull those in the garage overnight. And just walking around my house in my mind, got the patio chairs, deck furniture. We've got hammocks outside, bird feeders that bang the columns that they're hung from, things like that. It takes about 5 minutes to prep for that. And then the wind doesn't get to rearrange all your outside furniture. This is probably the most important thing, but it's funny how many people don't know who their insurance company is and what their deductible information is. So that's something that you really need to know, because depending on the degree of the damage, you're going to have to make a decision on whether to file a claim or not. The days of the $250, $500 deductibles are over. And pretty much what we see on any new policy written now is about $1,000. And the insurance companies have wisened up, because now they do a 2% wind and hail deductible. So if there's wind damage and your house is worth, you got $500,000 worth of coverage on your house, then basically that's going to be a $10,000 deductible. So if your roof is $15,000, then the insurance company just outsmarted you. So it's always important to ask those questions to your agent and say, hey, if my deductible is $1,000, does that change if there is wind and hail? So definitely something that they've slipped in on a lot of policies lately, and really important to know that. This may bite me, but I'm going to say it anyway. Call ahead to secure a roofing company or a contractor for emergency repairs. We get at least 5 of these before every wind event, and people say, hey, I don't know if I'm going to have damage. My house is high on a hill. We've had damage before in a wind event, but I just want you to have my information. And if I call tomorrow, I just want to get a spot in line. And that's very important. So you'd be surprised, even several days after the storm, people call and they want you to come same day. And basically this is one of those things where you just got to get in line, because we get bombarded with phone calls, emails, internet requests, website hits, and it's hitting us from every direction. And we're not a small company, we're not a large company either, so we can only handle so much. And it's not a bad idea to get on somebody's radar before the storm hits. And the last thing, this seems like it would go without saying, but make a note of the date of the storm, and it'll save you a lot of digging. On this one that hit recently, everybody knows the date, but most of the time people don't log the date. And when you call to file that claim, the first thing they're going to ask you is, what was the date of the loss?
Donnie, one thing I've always wondered about, though, is a storm goes through and you walk around your house and maybe you see some shingles turned up or some damage, and you're wondering at that point, what justifies a worthy claim?
Yeah. And a lot of people, when they have a leak, they say, oh, I better call my insurance company. Well, a lot of times the leak is not, weather related. So, the leak's not a result of damaged shingle from wind or something. It's just a roof failure. So that does not qualify for a claim that they would cover. And like I mentioned before, the deductible is something to take into consideration. So if you've got a couple of shingles missing, and maybe you have a couple of shingles missing on every slope of your roof, I would say all day long that justifies a claim. But if you have something, maybe, a branch fell out of a tree and scratched a few shingles, and if it's something that's a simple repair, a lot of times those repairs don't cost anything near what that deductible is. So number one, you should call somebody qualified to take a look and get an inspection from them. Or at the very least, if you have a relationship like this, you could text a picture to a roofer for an opinion on damages. I mean, a lot of times that's the fastest way. If somebody shoots me a picture of their house front and back and I say, hey, yes, definitely hole in one, call that claim in and go ahead and get an adjuster on the books. Because in most cases, people file a claim that have minimal damage. And if they have $1,000 deductible, usually our repairs don't touch that. So they've basically filed a claim, and say you had a $500 deductible and a $700 repair, it's not going to be worth it to get $200 from the insurance company and have that claim history on your record.
Well, Donnie, does SureTop Roofing do a lot of work where it might only be a $500 or $1,000 repair?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's house by house, but yes, I mean, you can get a lot done for the $500 mark, and it's really one of those things where the guys are so good and they know exactly what to look for. They don't waste any time. So unless it's something where you have to replace a bunch of ridge vent, ridge cap, or reflash chimney and cut things into the masonry and get very detailed with that kind of work, it usually qualifies as a repair minimum. And, if it is a worthy claim, the rule in the insurance world is they have to put you back where you were before the damage occurred, no more, no less. And when I took my adjuster class for the license, that was one of the first things that they told us. Side note there is they always said, take the highest deductible you can. And that doesn't sound right, but the likelihood of you having an insurance claim is very low. And you wouldn't believe, when I worked in Florida, for instance, think about all the retirees down there. And, these people are 60, 70, 80 years old. And I'd say 80% plus people said, we don't know what to do. We've never filed a claim before. And they live in Florida to boot. So just to tell you, you take a higher deductible and your monthly premiums are that much cheaper. And we see insurance claims all the time, but taking that high deductible, you may pay an extra $1,000 in the event that you have to use your insurance coverage, but you save that $1,000 over and over every year by taking that higher deductible.
So my wife and I recently, Donnie, we changed our insurance company for our house insurance. And one of the things we did was talk about deductible. And by raising our deductible from $1,000 to $1,500, it cut our annual insurance $800. Let's go to something else that you have a lot of familiarity with, and that is the claims process and how it works. And I did want to kind of go back a little bit, Donnie. Does your background with insurance and what they're looking for in claims and what would constitute it, does SureTop have an advantage over other roofing companies because you can tell them, hey, I know what's going to happen here. This is a good claim to make, or maybe pay for this yourself?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it was a total God thing. But one of my best friends growing up brought him into the insurance adjuster world. And it's funny because he was only in the adjuster gig for about 2 or 3 years. And, it's hard when you have a family because they don't care about that and they want you to travel all over. But he had a family. However, he did great job for 3 years. And then all of a sudden, when I started the roofing company, he just came to work for me. So he and I both, in our combined years of experience as adjusters, we know what we're looking at. If you call Joe Roofer out there and he's a storm chaser or what have you, hopefully you don't call a storm chaser, but these guys, of course, they're going to tell you, hey, yeah, file that claim, because they don't care about your claim history, how much your premiums cost. They want that roof. They want to get paid and get gone. When we go out, with the company, we have rules in place where we document things for them. And if we need to do a write-up, we do that to initiate the claim process. But we make sure that it's a legitimate claim. And the way that the claim process works is basically the homeowner has to file the claim because it's their policy, of course. Usually within 24 to 48 hours, they'll hear from the adjuster. That adjuster will call them, and don't let it scare you that it's usually an out-of-town number. That's even a better thing because they're independents in that case, and I'll get into that later. But they'll call you and set up an appointment within a couple of days. And after they see you, give them a break because they're doing 5, 10 of these a day. And they have to take the pictures and give an abundance of documentation to the insurance company. And especially if they're buying your roof, it's going to take them about 2 weeks to get all the paperwork through for that claim. And, 2 weeks later, you should expect that initial check. So side note, some of the insurance carriers, they're not all good people. I'll just word it that way. And they do tricky things. They do things that only help them. So one thing they'll say, hey, go get me 3 quotes from 3 different roofers for your roof replacement. So they've got this homeowner scrambling around, setting up meetings, and by law, they're obligated to give you their estimate. So the insurance company has to give you their estimate. And what they're doing is telling you to get 3 more estimates. And the trick there is that if you turn those into them, they're going to pay the lowest one and take your deductible off of that. So if you've got a roofer who doesn't play by the same rules, doesn't have the same insurance, maybe he's not certified with the shingle manufacturers, of course, he's going to be $500 less. And you're basically doing the insurance's job to save them money by getting them the cheapest quote. So it's more important because I'll just say it this way. The estimate that the insurance company is required to give you usually pays more than enough to get the roof done. So sometimes it's a minimum. Some insurance companies pay you just enough, but most of the time they're $200 or $300 over what my estimate would be. So it's definitely not, they don't. In other words, there's a software that most insurance companies use called Xactimate, and Xactimate's the price codes generated by Xactimate are updated, I want to say monthly. So per where you live, they have a price per square price code that they put in there. And basically that's dictated by another engine that drives all this, but it's more than fair. And it's the right thing to do is to make the insurance company give you their estimate first. Last two things I want to add to that about how the claim process works is you want to choose a licensed, insured, reputable contractor. Do your homework. You've got Google these days. So check these people out and make sure they're a legitimate company. Probably the most important thing is if they're certified with a shingle manufacturer, because that's going to be the difference in a 30 to a 50-year warranty for the exact same shingle. And I guess lastly, the rule of thumb is that if there's more than 3 trades involved, and this is on the insurance company, if there's more than 3 trades involved, if a tree falls on your house during a windstorm, you've got gutters, siding, roofing, framing, probably insulation damage, maybe drywall, paint, and maybe flooring on the inside. So there's 6 or 7 trades right there. The insurance company is obligated to pay you an extra 20% for a 10% overhead and 10% profit on top of the estimate for everything else, so that you can retain the services of a general contractor.
And this is the Carolina Contractor Show. Today we're talking about when you should make an insurance claim. And at the beginning of the show, Donnie was talking about his past working as an insurance adjuster, and now he owns SureTop Roofing. He owns Blanchard Building Company also. So he has a lot of information on both sides of this coin. Now, one thing people think, Donnie, is they file their claim and the insurance company is going to send them a check and it's going to be 100% plus of what the cost will be. But that's not always the case, right? So how do payouts work?
So yeah, everybody's trying to make money with the insurance company. They want to know how they can put money in their pocket. And I'm thinking, you're getting your roof paid for free. That's a win, dude. But the way that it works is they pay about 70% of the total claim. And I'm going to get into some acronyms and things, and I'll try to make this easy. Most of the time people have replacement cost value coverage, and that's RCV. ACV is the alternative to that for actual cash value. So the RCV coverage, it basically says that when they give you 70% of the total payment up front, you have the 30%, which is called recoverable depreciation, and you have to go through with the work and show them that you replaced the roof. And so that's what we do is we send pictures to the insurance company of the brand new roof. We send the bill that matches the insurance estimate, and then they send you the 30% that they held on the back end of that. So people freak out and say they only sent me $6,000 out of $10,000 or something like that, and say don't, just look at that, and there should be a number in parentheses, and it's going to be titled as recoverable depreciation. And as long as you have the appropriate coverage on your house, you're entitled to that RCV, and you do get that money back. So it's kind of tricky. The only instance I've seen people burned in this is some insurance companies do insured to value reports, ITVs, and you're required by law to carry 80% of the total value of the house. If you have a $500,000 house, you're required to carry at least $400,000 worth of coverage to qualify for RCV, get your depreciation back, and so forth. When I worked Hurricane Katrina as an adjuster, a lot of agents fled town because they didn't update the coverage. And, these people got demolished, and they found out that they didn't carry the appropriate amount of insurance coverage. If you can imagine how many thousands of dollars that equated to when they got their claims depreciated, because everything gets depreciated, but getting that depreciation back is the key. So they depreciated them to the tune of 50, 60%. And these people didn't carry enough coverage to qualify to recover that depreciation. And there were heads rolling in New Orleans after that, because if you have a lot of those houses were $800 million. And, that was a really big number, especially with the flood policy combined. So that big deal to always talk to your agent, stay in touch with them at least yearly and say, hey, especially, now that's a great point. House prices have gone up. So the value of everything shot up, 20, 30%. So it's always good to check with your agent and say, hey, do I have enough coverage?
So here's kind of a big, ugly question, Donnie. Are you saying there's certain insurance companies that are better than others when it comes to paying damages?
Well, how do I not get in trouble by answering this honestly? Okay. The easy answer is yes. A lot of the large companies, they're not all bad. There's a couple local ones around here, and I'm going to make it a point not to call anybody by name. The giants, the ones who have the Super Bowl commercials and all those, I'll say stay away from those, because they have enough money where they have adjusters on staff. And someone who's a salary adjuster on staff is not paid the same way as the adjuster gig that I did. As an independent, they had a fee schedule. And so nobody knows this unless you were in the insurance world. This is probably the biggest secret. These smaller companies can't afford staff adjusters all the time. So in the event of a big storm, they have to bring in the people that did what I did in my 20s as an independent. And The difference between a staff adjuster and an independent adjuster is that staff guy makes the same salary day in and day out. And an independent adjuster with that fee schedule, they're motivated to pay you more because the more they pay on the claim, the more they make. And we had different tiers. And so if I paid you $5,000, I might have made $350 or $400. If I broke $7,500, then, you know, I made another $200. If I broke $10,000, another $200. So they have every incentive to do right by the homeowner. And my advice to people when they ask this directly is that, you know, don't go to one of the giant companies. Go to somebody who's an independent agency that represents 20 to 30 different companies. And more than likely, they're going to find one of these companies that is a way better fit for you versus someone who has to operate in the confines of you know, what the giant companies offer. But I have all my insurance through a small agency. And of course, we have several different insurance companies because everybody meets my needs differently, whether it be the building company, the roofing business, auto insurance, personal. And these smaller agencies definitely tend to represent companies who only use independent adjusters.
I think you make an excellent point there is you got to shop around and find a good deal. What are some things that can cause your claim to be denied? It's the thing we fear the most when an adjuster comes over or an insurance company calls us back and says, yeah, about that, we're not paying it. What are the examples of where you can get denied?
First of all, the damage has to be what they call a covered peril. So it has to be with fire, wind, hail, you know, something that has to be labeled as an act of God. It cannot be man-made. So if it's faulty construction or negligence or deferred maintenance, those things will get you denied pretty quick. And one thing that I used to see, and there was nothing I could do about it, I wanted to pay for everything as an adjuster, and that people would have damage over time. So if you have a leaky pipe or a leaky supply line and it's rotted your cabinets and your floor out and it happened over the course of 2 years, you know, the insurance company doesn't owe you for that. It has to be something that happened in a sudden event, you know, windstorm, hailstorm, fire, something like that, that is a covered peril under your policy.
Does honey get better results than vinegar, if you know what I'm saying, when you're interacting with an adjuster or an insurance company?
Gosh, that's tough. It really depends on the adjuster. You know, everybody, some adjusters are hardcore. And for instance, I tell my homeowners, hey, if you file a roof claim and they want to meet the roofer, I'll be glad to be there. But so many roofers are jerks that they have burned these adjusters so bad that the adjusters don't want to meet the roofer anymore. That's just one of those things where they don't want to take the chance on this roofer over there trying to bully them. And in our case, of course, we look at everything. We look at everything before they file the claim. So we know that if it's going to be black and white, legitimate before you file it, or we would never give you that advice.
This is a Carolina Contractor Show, and we're talking about when you have damage to your house, especially after a storm, when you should probably consider filing an insurance claim, when you should maybe fix the damage yourself. One thing we've talked about for years on the show, Donnie, is storm chasers. One of the things we've talked about for years, Donnie, are storm chasers. So real quick, let's talk about the people we need to avoid when we have damage to our house, especially when it's a big event like a hurricane or a tornado where there's lots of damage and lots of people coming in to make repairs.
Yeah, the storm chasers are the devil. So basically these guys, if they have a 1-800 number on their truck or they have an out-of-state area code, you want to steer clear of these guys. And they're going to do what they call canvassing. They're going to knock on your door. You come to the door and they tell you that you have roof damage, and they're willing to get up there for free and look at it just to inspect everything. And I'd say 10 out of 10 times they're going to come down, say, yep, you have damage. You need to call a claim in and you need to sign this form. That form is called a contingency agreement. And contingency agreements are not all bad, but it's one of those things where you don't need to sign it. If you get referred to somebody and they ask you to sign a contingency agreement, what it basically says is that if I do this work for you and I deal with the insurance company and I get your roof paid for from the insurance company, you have to let me do the work. And we don't really do contingency agreements. We've dabbled in that when we felt like people were trying to get over on us and say, hey, can you sign this just so you don't waste my time? With somebody honest, a contingency agreement is not a terrible thing, but most of these storm chasers are dishonest as the day is long. And I've seen little old ladies have to pay $3,000 to $4,000 because this storm chaser, they found out they were crooked. They said, there's no way you're getting my business. And they ended up in court with these folks. And in some cases they have to pay. In some cases they just go away. But nonetheless, nobody wants to deal with all that headache. So if anybody wants you to sign a paper before you even have an estimate, I just don't think that's good business.
One more thing I want to talk about before the end of the show, Donnie, is really in your wheelhouse, and that's when it comes to getting the roof repaired. SureTop Roofing comes in, you give an estimate, you've helped the homeowner with the insurance claim. They're getting a new roof because they sustained substantial damage. It was all documented, and they come in and everything's ready to go, and you are going to install shingles. Is there a certain shingle that should be installed or that you recommend?
Well, of course, we gravitate towards GAF. That's our bread and butter shingle. They have the best warranties with the 25-year algae resistance, the unlimited wind warranty, and that's so strong that if your shingles blow off, you don't have to call the insurance company. That the shingle manufacturer will warranty that, and I think they're the only people in the business who have that. The closest is a 130-mile-an-hour wind rating. The thing is, if you don't go with GAF, I just say go with one of the major manufacturers, and the most important thing there that we preach is that you want to make sure that your installer is certified with that manufacturer. That's not just important on paper. That's important because your roof is the most important thing on your house. I mean, if most people that put on a roof and everything we touch is going to be a 50-year warranty, that's going to be the last roof you ever have. And what's so strong about that, in the state of North Carolina, this is a requirement, but that roof is transferable. That warranty is transferable one time. So it's very attractive to get a 50-year warranty. And if you sell your house, you pass it on to the next buyer.
And we're not making this a big plug about SureTop Roofing, but if you do have a question about your roof, you can visit the website, suretoproofing.com. But there's one thing I will toot your own horn for you, because you probably wouldn't say it and people don't necessarily recognize it. You're not only a certified installer when it comes to, say, GAF shingles and putting on a roof, but as a general contractor, not many roofers are, so you can take care of more than just roof damage, correct?
Absolutely. And I will toot my guy's horn. A lot of roofers use a bunch of subcontractors and they just get this crew or that crew. I've had the same crews for 12 to 15 years, and these guys have done everything from frame full houses for me. They do siding, they do boxing, and they just do shingles best. And we have a very diverse group, and we offer a lot of services. We don't advertise that, so I appreciate you saying that. But yeah, I think the difference between me and everybody else is that my installers, my guys in the field, they go to school every year. We take classes to be certified in the latest, greatest products every single year, and we take that really seriously. So hats off to my guys, because they put food on my table, and they're just great people, and they've stayed with me for a long time. So I don't know what that says about me as the boss man, but I think we're doing something right.
And I think it also shows that when you have a staff that stays with you, they take pride in the work that they do, and they've got somebody in leadership that says, I know you're trained. I know you're going to do it right. I don't have to baby you all the time. And the work speaks for itself in the end. So I want to mention the website again, because you said when it comes to being prepared, you need to be proactive. Maybe get in touch with suretoproofing.com so they know what your roof is like. They'll give you a free inspection. And then when you develop that relationship with a roofer, and in this case, Donnie being a general contractor, you know that you can get someone to help you get back to normal faster, the experience of knowing how to work with insurance adjusters, insurance companies, how payments work. There's a whole lot that goes on when you make a claim. And sometimes when you have somebody like SureTop Roofing, they might come out and say, this is a $600 fix all day. I guarantee that's all the problem you have is a small little piece of work. Let's keep the insurance company out of this, and also avoid those storm chasers, because they're just in there temporarily to make some money. Go to the website to get all the details on this show, thecarolinacontractor.com. Hopefully you didn't have any damage from the storms. You don't as we go into the year, and especially those spring thunderstorms. And then, of course, it's kind of Hurricane Alley on the East Coast, and there are a lot of things can pop up. But be proactive and take care of things in advance. And if you do have something, you got a plan. Know your insurance company, know your deductible, know who to call. And thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Carolina Contractor Show. Learn more at thecarolinacontractor.com. If you suspect a severe thunderstorm or hailstorm has damaged your roof, contact SureTop Roofing. They'll inspect your roof, document any damage, and repair it quickly. SureTop Roofing, your local GAF Master Elite Certified Roofer. Visit suretoproofing.com.